Welcome to another edition of KiitSZN, Friday night edition, actually, on this one, due to some scheduling conflicts. But here tonight, actually, Fox will not be joining us here tonight. He's been a little under the weather. So instead, we got our good friend here, Austin, to fill in his seat tonight. Austin, how are you doing tonight?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna do my best Fox impression today. Um, Gullible City. What else? Authenticity or authentic-y.
Authenticity, yeah.
I'll try to channel him as best I can.
So, or be the positive energy normally of the episode, since I'm usually the Debbie Downer of the kids. So,
We shall see. We shall see.
Well, yeah. So, besides Fox not being here and Austin filling in tonight, we do have a fun-filled episode from kits all across the U.S. as always, up from the Pacific Northwest and even down through Tulsa into Vegas. Very West Coast, Western tonight on for tonight's episode. But before we get started here, as always, I want to give a great shout out to our lovely patrons down below who allow us to do, well, what we do here on the show. So shout out to John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Christopher Cohn, Harry Austin, John Fuller, Michael Foots, Joshua Duder, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Ryan Lacara, Tim Knox, Anna Reg 30, MOS, Kunal Patel, Olive the Hedgehog, Andrew Towsley, Mad Cat Peel, and Ryan Smeltzer. And thank you for Goals TV for sponsoring this show. At this point, I should have these patrons memorized at some point, but thank you to all you people who do support us every single month. So I'm going to hop right into tonight's first kit, and we're going to head out to my good friends out at Tulsa FC, and this is with their I hope I'm saying this right, patina accent kit. It's that little special green that they've been using for the last several years. And honestly, I love how they've been kind of embracing that. I think it's a color that is kind of used throughout Tulsa, if I'm not mistaken. So I love that they've kind of made that their own a little bit. So any initial thoughts on this first kit here tonight before I get into my scores?
Yeah, my first impression was, I was drawn to the color. Like you said, this is a pretty unique color scheme. It's not often that you get a light color on a white background because, traditionally you'd expect, let's use a darker color, let's use black, let's use, a dark blue. So it's refreshing to see that. What was interesting, reading the story behind this, that pattern that they have, it's also tied in Art Deco, just like their home kit. So it's interesting that they're telling that same story with both kits, which I don't mind. It's not a bad thing. But I don't think they've done that in the past. So it's like this season, all right, we're telling the same story, Art Deco. The more I looked at it, the more maybe I didn't like it as much.
Okay.
Just because, it's starting with that pattern. It seems like a little bit of an afterthought, even though it's nice to have that detail. Certainly, anytime you do have a light color against a white background, contrast is an issue. It starts to seem, and even with the sleeve cuffs, you've got thick sleeve cuffs, but a thinner trim around the collar. It starts to feel like a little bit piecemeal.
Okay.
So it's a very solid kit. It's very well thought out. It just feels like there could have been a few decisions made here or there to make it a little bit more cohesive. For example, another thing that could have been, when you have a very unique color scheme like this, you want to maximize the use of that color scheme. So I would have liked to maybe have seen a solid collar, or just more of that patina green. So that way you're fully, using that to its potential. So those are my initial thoughts. It's certainly above average, but the more I look at it, the more I think, maybe there was a way to maybe make it even better, maybe make it a top tier kit instead of just above average.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they first look at this, if they don't actually take a closer look at it, they think it's just a plain white T-shirt. And a lot of the Art Deco is kind of subtle. And I think that kind of goes with what you're trying to talk about with the, the lack of contrasting colors. In that basically it's three light colors, right? The gray is much darker than the white with that green accent, which I'm a big fan of. And yeah, and it's sometimes a little hard to see that. I'm a fan of Art Deco, so as soon as I saw that, I loved it. But like to your point, it is kind of subtle. It's seemed like it got kind of maybe a little thrown in. I would have liked to see. But to your point with the collar, as much as I like that white with that green trim, maybe do that also on the cuffs, right?
Right.
A little inconsistent.
Yeah, and that's again at first glance, I didn't pay attention to that. I was like, oh, great color scheme, perfect. But then it's the more you look at it. Do you know if that pattern, that Art Deco pattern, is that sublimated gray or is that like a heat pressed embossed sort of pattern? I don't know if Hummel's ever done that, so it might be sublimated.
Yeah, so that's kind of my guess, is that it's supplemented on. I haven't been told otherwise, and based off of the photos that I've seen here, here's close up from the shop. It looks to be supplemented on and not quite as embossed.
Right. Yeah. Credit to Tulsa. I'm looking at their kit history. They have traditionally gone with a white shirt for their away kit. So there are only so many variations. I see 2023, they had a really good one with kind of the green and gold stripes, but black logos. Yes. Year before that, black logos. The year before that, black and gold logos. So credit to them for trying something new. I think it works. But maybe this is just, hey, we need to stay away from black and white, and this is worth a shot.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems I think that Tulsa's running into, because their primary kit is a black kit. There's only so many easy color variations, and I think with the lack of a third kit, which is what seems to be the pattern with them, they have to almost by default do a white kit as an easy contrast to that black and gold as their primary. It'd be interesting to see if we see something, because I know last year they released a pure green kit. I think that was actually one of their home kits, if I'm not mistaken, or a third kit. It'd be cool to see them lean into that as like their alternate within the black and gold home, and then maybe a little white, a little different as their way. But that's just me spitball.
I wonder if a light gray would be enough contrast. Either obviously black on a light gray would be fine, or if the gold would work. But maybe it's a light gold. Maybe you invert the colors of the home kit. So there's certainly it is difficult, but there is room for them to play around with, as we see with this one, for example.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I think they have a good color palette to pick from. I think that presents good opportunities. So when it comes to the scores, though, for this one, as you see here, I gave it a 3.5. Fox gave it a 0.25. Wow. I might have to double check him with that one, because I don't think he fully saw the Art Deco. And I'm going to triple check with him on that one. So there might be a slight amendment to this for Fox's score. But that kind of does lean into what we had talked about with this kind of almost appearing at first glance a white kit with some of that green accent on the collar and the cuffs. So I think that kind of hints at that a little bit. I also give him some excuses, so I'll reach back out to him once we're done here. But when it comes to my scores, though, when it comes to its overall design, though, I don't mind the overall design and the aesthetic. I think it does what it needs to do. It is a white kit. It's an away kit. And I'm generally okay with those being generally a little bit more plain with a little bit of detailing, in this case, the Art Deco or the collar and the cuffs getting that color pop. And I think giving a 3 there is what it is, right? When it comes with authenticity and tradition, it is just a white kit. no one really owns that. It is something that Tulsa has done in the past, and they've kind of lived with it. I don't know by choice or, because of their decision on the black kit, as I mentioned. So I did have the 3 there because they did throw in some details that tie into their local area, such as that Art Deco that they've kind of really embraced in the past few seasons. But when it comes to me, and we'll see what you think about this one, but when it comes to its visual details and its execution, I did give it a 5. I think because of, I don't know, it's just something that I like about that Art Deco in the background, given that it is a little subtle, but it is a nice little detail. Would I have liked a little bit more detail in other spots? Yeah, but I don't think it's too bad. I think it does complement the lighter white kit, maybe a little too much, but when it comes to those details, and I think the overall look of this kit, I did give it a 5. I think it came out the way it should. I wish they had green shorts though.
Oh yeah, that would have been hot for sure.
So little tip there to Tulsa, but then it's overall innovation impact. Maybe I'm a little high here. I gave it a 3.5. Sorry, not 3.5. I gave it a 3. Might be a little generous because I think a lot of people probably forget about a white kit. Honestly, probably a 2 was probably more deserving, but I felt a little generous today. So I did a 3. So overall, it's a 3.5 for me. I won't go through all of Fox's, but he did give it a 0.25. So this comes out to which is why I want to reach out to Fox here, a 1.88. I need to triple check on that. So this is not the best effort from Tulsa. I think we can kind of get that from what we've already discussed, right?
Yeah, I think you can tell what they were going for.
Yes.
I don't necessarily disagree with your innovation score. I think generally when you see teams with white kits, it would be nice if they put some effort in and they had a pattern. So, just for that argument alone, it makes sense. You can say there is some innovation here. Going back to the detail part, I mentioned that the Art Deco pattern, seemed almost a little bit out of place or like an afterthought to me. If this page is a perfect example of that. So you notice below the shop button, the credit card icons, those are in that same color, right?
Yes.
But it's against a clean white background, so it really pops. I know we're looking at a photo on the left in different lighting conditions, but I think having that pattern, especially in gray, it's tough with sublimation because you have to make it dark enough so that it stands out. So having that pattern there, that Williams sponsor, for example, again, I know sponsors are not part of what we rate, but it's kind of hard to read. And same with the Hummel logo gets kind of lost. That's not to say if there weren't a pattern, it would fix it. But when you have this lack of contrast, you want to maximize the contrast that you have available. So maybe even trying something like putting that pattern on the sleeve where there are no logos to compete with, maybe that would have been a better way to execute it. So
kind of like how I think New Amsterdam did with their New York kit. I think they put like their little, I think it was the Chevron or Chrysler. I can't remember what exact logo, but whatever that pattern, but it was all in the sleeves, was when the chest was more like subtle.
Right. Yeah. And you kind of see that effect right now in the sleeves, right? You have a really large, a pretty thick sleeve trim there, and it really pops against the white. And honestly, that's kind of where your eye is drawn to. That's the most green there is on the entire kit. And so that's an example of how, the rest of the kit should kind of hopefully look and feel.
You know what? As you talk about this, it is funny hearing how you talk in detail these kits in comparison to kind of Fox and I, non-designer like. And we're like, oh, that color looks good. That looks a little busy. And then you're like, there's a science behind this a little bit of like.
Well, let me break it all down for you.
Yeah, right.
Yep. I was an engineer before I became a designer, so.
Shoot, I forgot about that. That's right. Forgot about that. Well, there's not too much engineering here because this Tulsa value is a 22.06, and there doesn't. My math says that's not good. So, for your bang for your buck here, it's an $85 kit, which isn't terrible for Hummel.
Not bad.
And it's it's a non-supplemented crest. So I'll point that out there, as I know Hummel does have some kits that are supplemented. Madison does several. I'm wearing one tonight. They tend to do so, but this does not appear to be so, as you can see the shadow there. So for a kit value of 22.06, again, I need to triple check with Fox to double check on that score. So that may be amended next week. But yeah, this is well, put it bluntly, a away kit from Tulsa, and it is what it is, and it gets the job done, I think, for the team on the field. This next team, however, chose not to go with the traditional white as their contrast to away kit, and this is the Las Vegas Lights and their Vegas Origins kit. And I'm so happy. Just I remember in our interview with you, Austin, you had talked about some teams have been wanting to kind of go a little bit more traditional. Particularly, we've seen on the away, not away kit, but we've seen a bit more teams go a little bit more traditional with the kind of vibes. And this kit is a little bit of that old school collar type of feel that I have kind of associated with that kind of, well, I'll say classical era for me, at least, given that I'm not too old, and I'm happy seeing more teams doing it.
I think they were very clever in how they executed this kit too. I think the key is when you think about retro kits, there are certainly like the kits that are famous for being loud, but there was a period when, in the collar era, it was cool because they were not trying to do too much.
Yes.
The trend was you had embossed patterns, so you don't really notice it from afar. A lot of solid colors. And I think they nailed it with this. This is not something you typically expect from Hummel. I would even go as far as to say that I like this better than their home kit. The home kit, obviously was made quite a splash. It's very Vegas. But for me, having more of a solid body, again, we talk about contrast, it allows that sleeve trim to pop more. Having a solid colored collar, I don't mind that it's more plain because, again, it draws your eyes to, oh, what's that around the sleeve? It makes that more important compared to the home kit. The home kit is similar, but it has a black body, and that sleeve trim is found on the collar too. Right. So your eye's not really sure where to go. You're looking all over the place. Okay, it's black, it's blue. You've got this pattern. This is very cohesive. And then as an extra detail, you have that pinstriping. So that's then a nice detail. It's an extra layer of texture. It makes it so it's not just a plain blue polo, but that's not what you see at first. There are layers to this, and you can kind of like it's almost like I'm using like a food analogy, but you can kind of digest it piece by piece. But it's very clear what the hierarchy is.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you're hinting at is obviously the home kit's going to get all the flash and all the buzz, right? And I think going with a more subtle design for their away kit complements it really well. I think, as you said, the home kit is very Vegas, and I think that's why it did really good for us because it's Vegas to a T, right?
Yeah.
And this kit is just quietly really good. And
yeah,
the more I looked at this kit, the more I liked some of the details put in, especially the cuffs. I like that little tone, like that little silver put in. But then you notice it's kind of throughout everywhere. The pinstripes,
right,
and the accents of the Hummel, the sponsor, and then also the crest. It just kind of becomes everywhere. But it's like, it's not so overwhelming, but like you keep finding little details. And like you're saying, it's kind of fun when you can find those, right?
Yeah. It's purposeful, but it's almost effortlessly cool. The fact that they went with, and I'm looking at the home kit here by comparison, the home kit had gold and it used the regular Hummel logo. So again, very purposeful. Let's use gold, it's flashy. Let's use silver, it's a little bit more toned down for the way. Let's use the Hummel word mark, again, a little bit more old school. Let's use a monochrome logo here compared to the full color logo like we had on so that can't have been done by accident.
No, no. And from Las Vegas, I expect them to have that type of detail. They've kind of always, barring a year or two that they were kind of fumbled the bat a little bit, for the most part, they've always been very focused on producing good quality kits and putting the detail into representing Vegas the best that they can with their in terms of their kits. And I think this year is another example of that, kind of given. Well, I think the two kits complement each other perfectly well, and I think the more details into it, the more I'm more reaffirmed by that idea.
So, yeah, in many
So
ways, it's kind of the opposite of our reaction to the last one. You know, this is the more we look at it, the more we like it, versus the other one's like, oh, it looked great at first, but then you start to pick it apart a little bit.
Right. And I think that is one of the testaments of a really solid, really good kit is the more you look at it, the more you like it. And then the more you're like, okay, I start to really appreciate this for what it's trying to do and what it did do. Instead of like, oh, we saw what they attempted. This case, they attempted and executed well. So, yeah, I'm going to pop into my score. As you can see down below, Fox and I both really enjoyed this kit. I'm not surprised Fox didn't throw a 5 out there. Knowing him, he loves himself a collared kit. So I'm a little surprised it's not a 5 there. But for me, when it comes to its overall design and its aesthetics, which are important to me, because this kit, I think to your point, is actually, I like it for myself personally better than the Vegas one. I can see me wearing this more than the Vegas than the home kit. And for that reason, I gave it a 5 for its just the vibe that it gives me. It's a 5 for me. And I think that's kind of, well, it really hints at my style. And I've always been a sucker for a collar kit. And this is just that subtle, nice, clean look that I look for. And I hope players feel good playing in this. Yes. But then when we get into the authenticity and tradition, this is where it drops off a little bit for me, because Vegas has been, how do I phrase this? Especially on their weight side, they've been kind of all over the place a little bit in their kit design. There really isn't a tradition on their side, but there were some little notches to them, particularly if you look at the cuffs there, that those diamonds that are found in the logo, which is a nice little touch. And I think some of those little callbacks, I think, helps the score be a 3 instead of being a little bit lower. But then in saying that, its details and execution, though, I think are spot on. I think that black cuff really makes everything stand out a little bit. And it really kind of, at least to me, a little bit draws me in to the rest of the kit, where you see the details of the pinstripe, the details of those diamonds that you see in the cuff, and then just the overall sleekness that you see in this kit. And I think that's a tribute to how well executed it was, on top of just the amount of details in this. And I think given a 5 for its execution and its details speaks for itself. And then lastly, because it's not out loud and proud Vegas, its innovation and impact is only a 3. Because there's only so much you can do with a more classic tailored polo kit. There aren't so many innovations. I did like what they did with the pinstripes, a little bit of a different take on the traditional pinstripe. I did like that, as well as the detail in the cuffs. So those are nice little innovations, but due to it being a more quiet kit, I can only give it a 3 for its overall innovation. So that's a 4 from me, 4.25 from Fox, and a 4.13. And I think that kind of aligns with kind of what we're kind of vibing with this kit. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. You know, I think this is a really solid kit. I think there are certainly going to be people who don't like it because it's simple at first glance, or, you know, it is that there's a lot of blue. It is a very bright
Yes.
blue, and that could be difficult to wear for some people. So I understand that it could be polarizing, but again, the more you look at it, I think the more you can find reasons to like it.
Yeah.
And I was reading the kind of official press release blurb here, and I didn't realize until just now those pinstripes are actually inspired by kind of like the railroad heritage of Las Vegas. So again, the more you read into it, the more see that's why they're on train tracks right there. So even though that's not something that's obvious from looking at it, that extra meaning is like, oh, okay, yeah, I feel good about the story. I feel good about buying this kit.
Yeah.
In terms of tradition, it's interesting. I feel like this is a very different Vegas than we've seen in the past.
Yes.
And in a good way, but it has been difficult. They've gone through a few different partners.
Yes.
They had their Mava phase. They had even before that BLK, who has a very distinctive design kind of aesthetic.
Yes.
So it feels like they finally found their feet. I almost wonder if they have kind of a new creative team in their front office staff that is able to be more hands-on. I mean, even the sponsor, which again, we're not supposed to rate that, but it feels like this is Las Vegas Lights 2.0 in terms of their identity on the pitch. So although it's not the same as what they've done before, I have high hopes that maybe this will be the start of a new tradition, and this is kind of setting the tone for, okay, this is who we are, this is our identity, and we're going to continue to be cool and classic. Yeah, still glitz and glamour, but cool and classic as kind of like our secondary identity, and kind of maintain that moving forward.
And that's something that I think I've noticed since Jose Bautista kind of took over last. I think it was early-ish last year, but like late in this preseason. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the changes were basically made for him. And I just kind of noticed that shift, because there's no longer helicopters tossing money at halftime. Some of the fun, albeit fun gimmicks with like the smiley face overturned hat from the kit from BLK. Some of those very Vegas-y gimmicks are kind of fading, and they're now leaning into the actual tradition and history of Vegas, instead of just going into the touristy Vegas, if I'm saying that right. And that's something that I'm really happy for the locals, because you're not going to cater a soccer team to tourists. And I think that's I think a poor strategy and a way to not build a cohesive brand. And I think
it's just not sustainable, right? You can do that for so long, but it gets old. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good. Yeah, because I've heard the same argument. Obviously it's a little off topic, but like Orlando trying to get a baseball team, they love touting, and even Vegas with their baseball team, touting the tourist numbers. And I'm like, sure, you might get some tourists in to go to a games, but consistently, you got to build a brand locally. And I think Vegas here with the Lights are trying to do that. And I think they're leaning into Nevada. I think last year they released their Nevada silver kit, and just kind of leaning into their localness. I think that is, they're continuing trying to do here. And I do appreciate, and it's definitely a tonal shift to your point that I've seen.
So kit value next, what does that get us to in terms of dollars?
Yes. So this is a 37.50 kit value. Now, one of the problems, though, as we saw with just the last kit that we had done from Tulsa, was this is still a Hummel kit, but it is at $110. So it's always going to be a tougher bang for your buck value if you're looking for a cheaper, good value kit, just given that high price points. But this is still a pretty reputable 37.5, which is pretty solid. And eventually I will release a whole master list for those who are searching for good deals. But it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not the 60 that we got last week, but there will be a good one later tonight. You're just gonna
have to really think this one. You have to really like this kit to buy it for triple digits.
Or wait till it was on sale, which is probably what I'm going to do.
There you go. Yeah, if you do, let me know. Maybe we can combine shipping. I think I might need to get this one eventually.
I'll definitely reach out because, like you said, I will.
From a since I'm in kind of the business, what I see when I see that price tag is, okay, what's accounting for all the, where are all the dollars going in this jersey, right?
Right.
So Hummel there's everything's a la carte with Hummel, as far as I understand it. So your basic jersey is fully supplemented. Like you said, Forward Madison does a lot of that. Or if you have rematch jerseys, it's fully supplemented. Where you start to get cost increases, a polo collar is going to be more expensive. If you have sleeve trim, that's not just sublimated. It looks like that is done with ribbed material, so it's the same as the collar. It's a little bit more sturdy.
Yeah,
that's going to be an upgrade. They have metallic logos, so those are obviously not sublimated. Those are heat transfers. Not only are they heat transfers, but they're metallic heat transfers. So they have that for the Hummel logo as well as the sponsor. Those each are individual cost ups. So, I can see why this is starting to be more expensive, and certainly there's a premium as well for it being Vegas. But that's all just a little bit of insight into why, these are both Hummel kits. Why is this one,
a little bit different?
$25 more. That might be why.
Yeah, and it also might be Taylor was telling us that he got the Portland Hearts of Pine kit, the one that was all over social media, and apparently the new fabric for that one, well, it was really good fitting. And I'm wondering also if some of that newer, higher quality fabric, if they also opted into that, and that also could lead into that price. Because if I remember, the Hearts of Pine one was also really expensive.
I think I forget if it was Taylor or someone else that was basically saying, again, with Hummel being a la carte, they basically said, yes, we want the best of that, we want the best of that, we want the best logo, we want the best fabric, just like every single thing. And so that shows you the extreme compared to, again, not that Forward Madison is the lower end, but some Forward Madison kits are fully sublimated, and it's basic. So I almost wonder I don't know if that Hearts of Pine fabric has been used anywhere else. Not because it's necessarily better, but it almost seems like it's more of a cotton blend. So it's more of it's retail focused first. I almost wonder if maybe the players are getting something different. But that's all, industry speculation. But,
hey, that's something we'll have to see, Taylor, when fun little fact. For the USL show, who's going out to Portland actually. So I'll have to give a shot. I did that link up, so I didn't throw it up here, so I didn't give y'all the link to help out support them help designed by this guy to help get them to Portland. So maybe we'll have to ask Taylor to see if there is a difference when they did up there. So, but up next, not Portland, other coast here. We're going to arguably what's going to be my biggest pickup of the year, because honestly, I've got these kits every single season. I was honestly a little disappointed this didn't come out sooner, because they usually come out in December. So that's usually when they come out. So when they finally did get released, I am so happy it did. It's one of my favorite collabs that I talked about. I have raved about it for years. I keep knocking on their door to talk with me about it. But this is the 2025 Sarah Robbins kit by both Salmon Bay and Ballard FC. And a cool little, you don't see that often with I know you had done that, Austin, with West Seattle, where you kind of had the same kit with the goalkeeper, but a little different. In this case, they took at a little different level. It's literally the same kit, but the crest changes to be both teams. And I think that's really innovative and really unique from them. I hope I say it right. Inaria is that?
Yeah, I think Inaria, they're a Canadian brand. This was an accident. I'm actually wearing an Inaria jersey right now. I know we'll talk about what we're wearing later, but great brand.
Yeah. And honestly, they made some of my favorite quality kits, because I don't know, I'm a sucker. I think I've told you this. I'm a sucker for a good badge. I'm a good sucker for a little bit of like those details that you can like feel the texture. I think I can't remember what it's called. I think it's a textured, like even their name.
It's like a 3D. There's detail to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for that. And also with their holographic crest there, last year they released the Dewsby kit. And what you saw was it transitioned from the Ballard because Salmon Bay did not exist. You saw the Ballard, but then when you rotated, you saw the main design that's on the kit inside the crest. And I think that's a really innovative and very unique thing that I have not seen replicated elsewhere. And I don't think enough people are talking about some of those small details that you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, all credit to Inaria and I guess Ballard for finding this. You've seen it in European football a few times, but it's few and far between. It's accessible. It is a little bit more expensive than a normal badge, but really it's one of those things where you just have to know about it and ask for it. And so, props to them for being, the first to take advantage of that, because it could have been anyone, and they're like, no, we're gonna do it. And I think this is a very good use of it. Even more than showing the design of the badge, like last year, showing 2 badges and in helping to launch the women's team. That's perfect. That's genius.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a little plug into checking our interview with Austin from a few weeks back. It's one of those things that I love seeing, that synergy between clubs. And it is also an alternate kit, so it can be used by both. And I think that is really cool. And you see that even in that design of that crest, of that, that holographic. And I think this kind of adds to the overall really good vibes of this kit, on top of everything else that we'll talk about more about it. But you can tell this was just a kit that is something that's unique in so many different ways, but it's also really well executed in the more details you look at it. And I think this here, I'll just pop it up here. There's no need for me to go through all of it. It's a perfect score from both Fox and I. This is flawless. This is everything that I look for. It's unique. It's creative. There's a local tie to a local artist. That's something that I keep advocating Indy to keep trying to do, is get some local, like as a third kit. You don't have to keep doing racing indie kits. We've seen a ton of those at this point. Do something that's native to the area. I know that 500 is the biggest event in the city, so whatever, come at me. But I want to see some of our local art broadcasted. And apparently in the Pacific Northwest and Seattle region, there's not a lack of artists in the area, because they keep coming out with these every single year. To Stevie Shao, the Dues Fight kit, and now the Sarah Robbins kit. Yeah. So seriously, kudos to them for doing this. I've even noticed more teams are starting to do this. As I don't know if it's because of them, but I've noticed more teams are starting to try to do something like this, because it's the best way to involve your local people and into a local art style to your community.
Yeah, I mean, what better way to tell a story with the platform they have, with this canvas, with your jersey, than by literally asking your fan base, your community, to tell the story. You don't have to, as a club, as a front office, make up some story about how the color means this and this means that. Have the artist do it for you. Not that you're taking advantage of the artist, but you're able to tell a story that is unique also, because it is specific to that one individual person. Yeah. This is not a knock against the artist here, but it almost didn't matter what the artwork was in this case, just because, as you said, they've had such a strong series now in its 4th year, right? You knew it was going to be a banger no matter what, basically. So just the fact that on top of that, Sarah Robbins was able to create something that is so distinctive and so bright and bold. That was just icing on the cake. All credit to her. I do think this is probably, I would say maybe it's up there. Maybe it's debatable whether this or the Stevie Shaw kit is better. It may be too soon to even start comparing. This is fantastic. I also kind of like that, and I don't know if this was intentional, but with it being for Ballard and for Salmon Bay, the sleeves are colored differently than the torso. And looking at the ones that have done in the past, they've all been
all the same color, right?
Yeah, it's been solid color. And just using that entire thing as a canvas, this I think kind of speaks to the duality. Hey, this is for the women's team and the men's team. So whether that was intentional or not, it works in this case.
Yeah. And new voice here, Taylor kind of popped in here.
Hello.
Any comments for obviously this really good looking kit?
I mean, it's perfect. Like, it's so good. I know y'all already talked about it. I was listening to it. But I mean, at some point they had the idea of taking everybody's favorite thing, which is just looking at those things that I don't remember what the name is, like the holographic thing. Yeah. And I feel like if I had the kit, I would just hold it and just move it side to side the entire time. I feel like I would never wear it. I would just be too fixated by this.
Right. I think the technical term is a lenticular lens. It's and I had to look this up, but AS Roma did this a few years ago when they were with New Balance. And it was interesting in Roma's case because they had their normal badge, and then when you rotated it, it went to a throwback badge because that's cool. a club with history, obviously. So they were able to. It was kind of a modern retro sort of thing. Yeah. So again, this specific application, switching between two teams, not just two logos of the same team, very clever.
Yeah. I just think that normally I don't like the super busy kits. Like there was the Ballard's or Ballard kit that last year that like Fox and Brett. Wait, no, maybe not Ballard. Maybe it was super busy that they loved, and I didn't like it that much. I do like a more simplistic look generally. I love this one. This gets all the right balances for me. The color combos work well. This to me feels like they've struck a nice balance between being art and still being like not just what is happening.
Like that's I'm guessing you're talking about this one, the Phoebe Shout kit. Yes. Which was my favorite, but I get your point.
I didn't love it, and it's not that I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't think it wasn't done well. It's just I didn't love it like I love this. And maybe it has to do with the colors. It very well could be. I'm a sucker for pink and blue. If you give me pink and blue, I'm buying it so fast. Maybe this is just me being tricked by predetermined, like, or, just biases,
No, honestly, I really like this color palette. As much as I love the green and yellow, I grew up with schools that were green and yellow. I've always liked these contrasting colors. I think they complement each other so well. And I think you add that on top of the crest. You add that on top of the fun, unique design that's not too busy, but also kind of complementary in how it's even shaded a little bit with like the mushrooms up front being like full color, a little bit of detail. But then the things in the back are a little bit less detailed. And you kind of see that there's a bit of a layering to the design there. And I think add those all together, it produces one of the more unique but better looking overall kits that we've seen from them.
Fair enough.
Might be up there with for kit of the year for sure.
Oh, 100%. Well, it will at least get my vote because last year I voted for the Stevie Shout kit, so I think it's only tradition that I voted for mine. But what I will say also about this, which is one of my favorite parts about this is a really good kit value. It's only $90, and you did, as we talked about, Inaria is really good when it comes to its quality, from the badge, from that 3D texture, just that you kind of get from it. I think you can attest, Austin, with the Providence City kit you're rocking, and well, my collection. this is a top-notch kit for only $90. That also looks amazing and will stand out. And I can't think of really a better kit value outside of what we did last week with the Moines. That was just ridiculous. But
I have well, actually, I'll let you finish this up before I tell you I think one that has a better kit value.
Ooh. Actually, I'm basically wrapped up at this point on this kit, unless Austin, you have any other final thoughts here before we listen to whatever.
No, I'm excited to hear. I'm excited for Kayla's story. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was on the good bargain.
You mean I think it's the best kit value you're going to get at all. Are you ready?
Yeah.
$65. You can get this beauty right here, the Equip Studios kit, the biggest league in the world. It helps us get up to Portland. We have the sound and the sound of the forest kit or sound of the forest kit. Long sleeve for $65. It has a collar. The sound waves are the stripe. It was such a clever idea. For $65, this is immaculate kit value.
I love this so much. The more I look at this kit, yes, I saw some of the before this got released, but like the more I look at this kit, the more I love it, and the more I'm so happy with the technically the cuffs at the bottom of the long sleeve being the all the colors of the USL, which I love that. And if you follow the show, you know I'm a sucker for a long sleeve now and a polo. So you already know I'm going to keep pushing this.
we're giving kit collectors everywhere exactly what they want. Long sleeves. Yeah. Not only long sleeves and collar, but a shoulder pattern going all the way down the sleeve.
Yes.
We know what people want. We know what people want. We're giving it to them.
Hey, we are the people's channel. We try to be the people's channel, as I always like to say. So we're giving that to you. And as Taylor mentioned out, most importantly, this is getting those guys down below at the main USL show to do an amazing trip out to Portland. So honestly, you get to help the show and you get to wear something really good. I honestly can't think of a better bargain.
Genuinely, even if you don't want to help us, if you hate us and you're hate watching, like it, at least buy the kit because it's nice. Like it's instant classic stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to buy a jersey to burn, if you're into that sort of thing, may as well buy one that's cheap, right?
Yeah. But seriously though, Austin was awesome to work with for all the people that are looking to make your own kit. When just full transparency, I reached out to Austin and said, "Hey, I want to make a kit." And he was like, "Do you have any ideas?" And I said, "No."
I love when
I was like,
tell me that.
I was like, "Help me." And Austin was like, "I got you. Here's some ideas that I have based off of your logo and what this kit is being used for. Here's just some general ideas." And it's so much better than anything I could ever come up with. So even if you're like, I want my SG or I want my Sunday League team to have their own kits, but I don't know where to start, Austin's a genius. So like he can definitely help you.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Brett.
I was gonna say I've seen some of your even ones that some of your appeal be like just your mind, some of your ideas. You're always full of them, so I always love seeing. Obviously, hearing Taylor's like, "Oh, I have no idea," and just coming out with this idea. This is on brand for what I've seen, and I love hearing that. Because honestly, I didn't go to you and say, "Hey, give me a kit for this," and you're like, "I got an idea. Here you go."
Yeah, it was a logo, and then I was like, "Well, what do you want for color?" And you're like, "I don't know, black, white." I'm like, "Well, why don't we make it green for Portland Hearts of Pine?" And you're like, "I don't know if that's gonna work." I'm like, "It'll work. It'll work." So honestly, some of the best stuff that I feel like I've created has been when it is open-ended like that. Because sometimes clients will come to me and they have a very firm idea of what they want. I want a red body, I want a blue stripe here, I want this, I want that. And I can make that, but it sometimes ends up pigeonholing us where, okay, well, there's a ceiling for how good this kit can be because you've kind of put in all these parameters. That's not to say I don't like it when people have a very firm idea of what they want, but you know, I can exercise my kind of creative muscle with something like this. So.
Yeah.
Well, I will let you. Yes, very well done. I will let you guys get back to. I will go remove, and you guys can go on with the show.
Appreciate dropping in, Caleb.
Yeah.
Well, so obviously that was the kid that, you know, as we talked about, trying to get to the League USL show to Portland, Maine for it should be a fun episode for them on site. But it's not why we're here, though. We're here to rate kits. And speaking of Portland, we're going to a different Portland. This one is still on the West Coast here, but this one, if you are not aware of this team, you are now. This is the Portland Bangers. And I'm not wrong in saying that. They're called the Portland Bangers. And one of the more unique looking teams, I will say, in USL with their, I think they're sausage caps, like sausage makers is what their name is from. If you look at their crest, they have like the sausage thing around. I honestly, I need to do more research on that, but it's one of the more unique names and teams out there. And one of the things that I haven't seen before, count me wrong, when it comes to official team wear, is official lead dropping into the kit game, which is, I will never be upset about that.
So this is an interesting club.
Yeah,
they are actually. Do you know? Have you heard of the Portland Pickles?
Oh yes. Yes.
There's I want to say minor league, but I looked it up, and the correct term is it's a collegiate summer baseball wood bat team. So I guess technically minor league, but and so they're called the Portland Pickles, and as is very common in minor league baseball, you have a lot of fun identities. But this is a permanent. They're permanently called the Portland Pickles. It's not like a one-off where they name themselves after a local delicacy or whatever. So this organization, this baseball team, started a soccer team. So it only made sense that it was going to be likewise very fun. They were going to be, very merch forward. This is very intentional. They knew what they were doing. This is one of 4 kits that they dropped at one time, right? Was it 4 or 6? It was a lot.
It was 6 kits, but 3 official player, and then they released like 1 or 2 goalkeeper,
kind of like fashion kits.
Also. Yeah, and then there was a few fashion kits. So I believe it's 3 player and then 3 fashion.
Yeah. But just like, with minor league baseball, the people that are buying the merchandise for these fun one-off identities, they're not necessarily true baseball fans or hardcore baseball fans. Like they're locals who are going to have a good time. Yeah. The people who, most of the people who stumble upon this are not going to be, following their progress in the league table. They're going to buy one of the 6 kits, and they're not going to care about which one was official or which one's not. So I'm assuming, I'm not sure if it's correct or not, I'm assuming Official League is also doing stuff for the Portland Pickles, and that's why you see them here. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume there's some synergy there. I think we've kind of seen, it would be really unheard of to see a manufacturer, at least on this side, create uniformed and then not be affiliated with the same parent organization. Outside of Louisville, because I know NWSL and USL is a little different with the vibes, but they both still do stuff with official and some of their non-league exclusive wear. So yeah, it won't surprise me if the Pickles have some official lead stuff. But before we do, I also need to mention, this is their 3rd kit, by the way. This is their what's dubbed the Bannerang kit. Sorry. Yeah, the Bannerang kit. As it's described as, it's an electric and saucy. Yes, they're being intentional with the weird wording. alternative to our on-field kit, split down with pink and white with jagged lightning bolt striping. The loudest kit in the collection and the most unapologetically Portland. And I think that sums up this team in the most banging way. Is it's unapologetically Portland. And I kind of love that. I don't know if the kit vibes with me, but I love that they're just being authentically them.
Yeah. It's unique for sure. It's going to stand out.
Yeah.
On the pitch and off the pitch.
Yes, it will. Now, when it comes to the scores, though, it's kind of, I have some other preferences than this one, but as it is, even though this is very unapologetically Portland, this is still an unapologetically upper mid-tier kit overall from my perspective. And I think the scores here from Fox and I really kind of highlight that. Just for me, I do like the overall aesthetic. It is a 4 from me with the design and aesthetic. I do think something just is slightly, I can't name it, but it's just feels a little off for me. So I think a 4 there is appropriate. It's still fun, good looking kit, but I don't know if I'm like in awe of it, if that makes sense with this one. I think there are some other ones that I think capture that a little bit more for me. And given that this is a brand new team, I don't like to give the 3 for authenticity and tradition. It's authentically Portland, but there's no authentically Portland Bangers tradition at this point. So I think that made sense. But then what really hurts this kit, and honestly, I think it is the details, or in this case, the lack of details in this kit, is just the stripe. I'm sorry, that bolt pattern across it. There are no details to it. There's no like little, how do I phrase it? There's no like cool little Easter eggs yet I go looking for. There's no little nods to the city. There's not even a nod to the Pickles if you discount the green. There's not even a nod to the baseball team that they're co-owned by. So I think lacking some of those details does hurt it, which really hurts my story. So I did give it a 2 there. But what I think is the main purpose of the kits like this, given that it's the loudest of the collection, it does get a bit of an impact. It is a 4 for me because who's going to say no to buying a kit, especially one like this, for a team called the Portland Bangers? That is a unique name and a very unique kind of color set. You don't see a lot of green and kind of salmon pink, I'm going to call it. They're from Portland, so it's a 3.25 from me. Yeah, that's kind of how I kind of feel how this kit is.
I think I would agree with you. You said in the beginning that just something feels off to you. I'm very conscious of this as a designer myself, that is primarily in the soccer space. When, people ask me to design for other sports, I tell them I can, but, I live and breathe soccer. I know the ins and outs of it. I know just by looking at something, whether it's going to be good or not.
Yeah.
This, I think, even if you look at the logo, right, for the Portland Bangers, or even the name, that is very distinctly, this is soccer through a baseball lens.
Yes.
This is, again, to a casual fan, this is going to look like a soccer kit, but to a soccer fan, it's going to look like, it almost looks as if like AI designed, you told AI to take the Portland Bangers logo and take the Arsenal jersey and like mash them together.
Right.
It works, but it's, even when you look at the lightning bolts and the zigzags, like the rhyme and reason behind which parts are thin and which parts are thick and which parts are pink and which are white, it's crazy for the sake of being crazy, just like their name, right? If you talk about authenticity and tradition, it's a first year team. All they have is their name and their logo. Their whole basis of existing is being ironic and for shock value, and that's their kits do that as well. This is meant to be loud. It's meant to be, in your face and unapologetic. So
Right.
to that point, it is staying true to who they are, but it is just not what you would expect for your traditional lower league soccer team. Which, credit, they can make their own lane. That's fantastic. I think there's more than enough room in the soccer landscape for that. But I think certainly traditionalists are not going to be happy about it. The other thing I wanted to, I had kind of changed my train of thought, but when you were talking about details, maybe that is because Official League is not a through and through soccer company, so they don't know that, like, hey, we can put smaller sublimated details, or we can put, it's common to put little phrases on the inside of the collar, or maybe we can put a pickle on the back of the neck.
Right.
Things that again, as soccer fans, we know, okay, I should look at the jock tag and see if there's a little thing there that nods to the city, or maybe there's the city flag here.
Right.
That was my first thought. Oh, maybe I'll cut them some slack, because again, this is a baseball team forming a soccer team. These are not soccer folks first and foremost.
Right.
But then I thought about, in Major League Baseball has been doing this whole City Connect thing for quite a while, and that whole thing is Easter eggs, even down to the socks, even down to that's the entire thing is just Easter eggs upon Easter eggs. So
right.
Maybe that excuse doesn't work as well. But I think these jerseys serve their purpose. The people who are buying this are not going to be, they're not looking for a super in-depth story. They just want it to be loud, and that's it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm actually curious about is, given kind of what we talked about, this is their first foray into an official soccer. Like, there have been some fun release kits. I think they did some with Louisville. They've done, like, I think it was baseball jerseys. I think they released for Racing Lou and Lou City. I'll be very curious to see the quality of this kit. And I think I will choose one of these three kits eventually and get one for myself. We'll get to the other two later, or the fashion ones, whichever one. And I'm curious to see the quality, given that this is their first foray, and kind of some of the things that we've already hinted at. Because one of the main things that I am curious about with the lightning bolts is my main question of why lightning bolts? And, like, how does that scream Portland to me? Yes, it's loud, as Austin kind of hinted at, but, like, why does it have to be lightning bolts? You could have done a silhouette of a tree, because Portland's known for its timber industry, which is also, the Timbers have that pretty well locked down. Same with Lane United, not too far away. Or into just some of the geography on Portland. I heard it's gorgeous. Or even some of the rain. You've thrown some rain droplets. I don't know. But, like, I want them to be loud, and I want them to be unapologetically Portland. But I want to know why this screams unapologetically Portland. This just screams, hey, here's just a kind of uniquely designed kit with 3 colors on it. How does that to me scream unapologetically Portland? I think that kind of reflects in some of the messaging behind this kit to me.
Right. It seems more unapologetically Bangers than unapologetically Portland.
Yes.
I think the green is, like, the only thing that really ties it. I don't know of that pink or salmon color really having any significance to Portland. I think that's just because of sausages, which again is fine. But yeah, that the lightning bolt thing definitely is why I thought AI generated, even though I know it's not. But just hey, that's a soccer thing. Let's put that soccer thing on the soccer jersey.
Right. And for those who are curious about this kit, when it comes to a kit value, this is at $99 retail. So a little bit on the higher end compared to some of the USL kits that we've rated here just even today. So, and with that overall score of a 375 with boxes 425, this is a kit value of a 37.88. So technically, this is a better bang for your buck compared to the Vegas kit. However, I will still say the caution given the quality of this kit. If you're looking for a quality kit compared to the Hummel, because if you already know Hummel, you know what to expect, even though it is $110 compared to official lead, which I have not done, nor so I cannot attest for the quality that you may feel with this kit. So I will put that caveat on that being a better kit value technically, but this is still a unique designed kit and something that could stand out in a collection, potentially, if that is something that you are looking for. So any final thoughts on this kit here, Austin?
I think, this is a club that we'll just have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
They're making a splash. We'll have to see in year 2 if they do the same. I think it's very clear they want to be like a Ford Madison. They want to be, churning out jerseys that make an impression, one way or another. So
yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I'm looking at all their kits that there wasn't more of a tie to the baseball, because like baseball has a certain aesthetic to it. Baseball jerseys in general. I think Oakland did a really good job with their A's Inspiration kit. Like when you look at it, you're like, oh, that could be a baseball jersey, right? And or even the pinstripes. So that's very, very into baseball. And I think that's something I will be curious, to your point, see what they do next year to kind of tie the two organizations together, or essentially two different sports. So if we want to take a look at, because there are definitely some better ones in my opinion, and I cannot wait to review those later. So those were the 4 kits. Unfortunately, because Fox got, he's out for the day, the fan vote did not get voted on, get rated by Fox, so that's been pushed to 2 weeks. This next week we have a fun interview that we have planned with AFC Ann Arbor. But those are the kits here for tonight's episode. But before we move forward, I want to do obviously what I dub my favorite segment of the show, and that is the kit show off time. Austin, what are you rocking here tonight?
Yeah, this worked out. I wanted to wear a Providence City shirt, and I didn't realize until we were talking about Ballard, like, oh, it's an Aria. So this works out really nicely. But honestly, this is probably one of the favorite lower league, amateur semi-pro shirts that I own, for a couple different reasons. One, as you've said a couple times, Inaria just makes great shirts. As someone who is in the business, I have, bought quite a lot of jerseys from a lot of different companies out there, the likes of Icarus FC and Stimulus, and just to kind of do my research to know what my competitors are doing, right?
Yeah.
And Inaria just hands down has the best fabric, even just the fabric alone, but also the cut. It's just a really nice jersey. I think they are, even though they might not have as big of a presence as the likes of Hummel or on the amateur side, Icarus FC, their product is the best. And that also, goes with the badge as well. This is a 3D badge. But also design-wise, I think it's really clever what they've done here. This is a Pride kit. But you don't often see this base color, and the lighting's a little bit weird. This base color is like a light blue. It's like a teal.
Yes.
And that's not something that you see that often. Usually with a Pride kit, you expect a lot of rainbow. And this is kind of balanced very tastefully. Obviously, you have a rainbow badge, but they've been very purposeful about having the rainbow in kind of like a pinstripe. So, a lot of teams do Pride jerseys, and it's difficult to do something different and have it land. And I thought Providence City did a great job of it. And also, I think Providence City is, one of the OGs when it comes to making an effort to look good on the field. I would say Ford Madison gets a lot of credit, but Providence City was right there with them, and they were one of the first to really care about that, and then show that it pays off to care about that as well.
Yeah, it's I would credit them in Minneapolis City before Minneapolis City joined USL League Two. Both those teams really put in that effort. And honestly, one of my favorite kits and my wife's favorite kits is from Providence City. It's their donut kit. It's one of my absolute favorites. It feels good, looks good, and it's super unique. So if you haven't checked out Providence City, I highly recommend you do. But what I'm rocking here tonight, given that tonight is, well, not tonight, this May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm actually rocking, I actually got it today, so I'm very happy it came in today. I'm rocking the Forward Madison Mental Health Awareness Kit from last year. It was their warm-up kit. It has all some of the messages that they have about just, I don't know, just positive energy and positive reinforcement for people who go through mental health. A lot of us go through it. I myself did for a few years. Well, actually still kind of do. And so we all kind of struggle with that. And seeing a kit and a team bring that to life, and then also to help support local charities and organizations there in Madison is a huge bonus for me. And this also looks really cool. It's a gray with the green. I think this looks amazing. And yeah, it's one of my favorite kits, and it definitely hits home for me, being, as I mentioned, someone who has struggled with mental health awareness, which leads me into saying, if you do need support, please contact, I think it's 988, the suicide prevention hotline. I believe that is. I need to triple check that. But please always feel free to reach out to someone. If you are struggling, please. Oh, yeah, it's 988. So if you are struggling, please reach out to that hotline or to a friend of yours, because that does matter. And always practice self-care as well. So it's my little message for mental health month here.
Is that a match top, Brett, or is that
pre-match?
Going to be worn pre-match? Cool.
It was pre-match from last year.
Gotcha. Okay. What's around the Hummel? What are the words around the Hummel logo?
Oh, yeah. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month. That goes around it. It's really good. It's actually a women's kit because all the men's sides are out. But you can't tell. Oh well. So yeah. So this is one of my favorite kits, and I'm happy I finally got able to get to it. So I will keep spouting. I forgot last week to talking about mental health at the end of every episode and that hotline, given it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So as always, want to give a huge shout out to our patrons down below. If you like what you hear and what you watch, please like, subscribe, follow us on all the socials, Spotify, YouTube, Blue Sky. Stay in touch with us. And as always, the best way to communicate with us is via Discord, because you can talk to me personally. But yeah, that is it for tonight's episode. Austin, once again, thank you so much for filling in for Fox here tonight. It was a pleasure to have you on, as always. And it was a good episode and some good kits to be rated tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was so much fun. To be able to just, really get into each design. As a creative, it's really cathartic. Like, honestly, I didn't expect to be feeling like so satisfied at the end of it. So anytime you need me, I'm happy to weigh in.
Well, good, because we always need some more logical takes on this show compared to Fox and I. So always a pleasure. But yeah, that is all for tonight's episode. Please join us next week as we interview AFC and Arbor, who've released some of my favorite kits that I've seen in Lord Leeds. So be tuned in for that. So, and before I leave, I always forget things, but always be sure to check out Equip Studios to help us with I can't remember the name of it. What's the name of the new USL show kit?
Sound of the Forest. Does that sound right?
Yes, the Sound of the Forest kit to help the USL show get to Portland, Maine for a live show for the Portland Hearts of Pine. That is it for tonight. check out the links down below for access to all of our socials and all that stuff. Otherwise, that is it for tonight. Enjoy your night, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.